Yep.
So that's going to be your main camera, this one, and this is the other camera. So that's put slightly this way. I'm going to sit here.
Do you want this back?
No, you can keep it for now. I'm just, I'm going to move this. So
Oh, you are?
use that.
Oh. Is it better that I keep this on? Is this going to be like promoted or published anywhere?
So I'm going to post it on YouTube.
Be like promoted or published anywhere?
Then if you say, one second. I was going to say, so I think the audio is good. So I'm going to ask open-ended questions and topics, and I'm just going to treat it like an alley-oop. I'm just going to throw it out there. It may be unstructured to a certain degree, and then just kind of run with it. If you, my answer was going to be, if you say anything good, then I'm going to make a clip and post it on Instagram. And by good, I mean if you say something roughly, or if I'm going to make something up. How would you describe Metro Detroit real estate? If you give me an answer that's a minute, give or take, and it's like, good for whatever reason, then I'll clip that and then post it on social media. I say that to say short-ish answers are really good so that I can clip it, and for viewers. So open-ended questions, if you hear anything, just run with it, give me a good answer. Topics. So actually, I do need this for a second. I would like you to. So I'm gonna make this video Detroit real estate with your name.
Nusrat, N-U-S.
I'm just gonna ask you to write that down.
Okay.
Alright. So I'm gonna start with something. This isn't the interview, but I'm gonna start with, I'm gonna try to do an art. Where are you from, and how'd you get into real estate? What are some things you've learned in your career as a realtor slash broker? You're a broker. What's it like, or what do you look for? Or what are the qualities that make for new agents or good agents, something like that? Talk to me about some trends you see in Detroit, Metro Detroit real estate. How would you describe real estate in the region, Detroit and Metro?
That's a lot.
Yeah, I'll just stick to that.
I wish I was in a chair. Morning, how are you?
Actually, just put your bag over here so it's not to shine.
Oh, sure.
Touch people's stuff.
That's dumb.
Put that in the trash.
Thank you. Nusrat, today is July 25th, 2022.
One more time, I readjusted the vibe. Can you say today's date and what city are we in?
Today we're in Detroit, July 25th, 2022. This fan stays on?
No, I'm gonna turn it off in a second. You're gonna get hot as hell for the interview. All right. Here. I'm gonna add your name to the video, then we'll start.
Do you have a preference for how I sit? I like to sit upright.
My answer is gonna be what looks best on camera. So sit comfortably, whatever is comfortable for you. Looks good. So I'm gonna sit here. Chair.
Did you say it's normally Godwin that does the interviews?
So I have a rotating cast. Godwin is one of my hosts for sure. Yeah. Were you expecting him to be here?
No, not at all.
Just checking. Some people have their preference for a host.
I could care less. I'm sure you're good at what you're doing. That's why you're here. I'm grateful to be given this opportunity.
Really appreciate you being here. On a platform, I used to do a real estate podcast with a different broker before COVID. I think there's a market for real estate content, visual content. Are you familiar with Curb?
Yes,
I think Curb, but in video podcast type format, I think there's a lane for that, and I want to figure out what that looks like.
I'm all down for it. Let me know how I can be involved. Who did you used to work with? Not Jay.
Valencia and Justin from Front Page.
Oh.
Front Page Property.
Yeah. Is his name Justin Page?
No, Justin Kane. He is.
Oh, Justin Kane. I know.
He's a realtor, but
Yes. I'm familiar.
up there with him. That just brought me up another question. I'm going to ask this at some point. What is it like being what's the relationship between different brokers and realtors in the city? I'll get to that later. I'm going to get a drink. I'm hot, and then I'm going to get into it.
Dude, never mind, I'm baking. You get a drink.
All right, your
Hi there. So my name is Nusrat Moghul. I am from, I'm a citizen of the world, I like to say. I was born in Karachi, Pakistan, moved here when I was 4 to the US. When I was 17, I moved to London, England. I lived there for all my life. And when I left and I came back to Michigan 7 years ago, I had already trained as a lawyer. I'd run several businesses, and instead of participating in the justice or lack of justice system in these United States, I decided to become a realtor upon my sister's suggestion. So I became a realtor for about 4 years. I practiced that fully, and because of the company I was with, Artera, they encouraged me to get my broker's license. I became a broker, and then I opened a brokerage. So I've now been operating in real estate for about 7 years.
What was it like coming to the country? This is new to me. What was it like coming to the country from London or overseas?
It was a culture shock again. I grew up here and I missed here my whole life. I feel like a bit of a transplant wherever I go. In England, I'm known as the American lady, and in America, they're like, oh, the British ladies. Yeah, I'm like, what? I'm not British at all. I did spend my entire life there. I have 4 children. My children are all British. Coming back, it's shocking to me how openly racist this country is, and being in Detroit and perhaps being an adult and seeing the way things operate is a bit shocking. I didn't experience this kind of level of insidious racism as much in England. Maybe I was oblivious to it. It's a very cosmopolitan city, and so I didn't encounter it as much as I may have if I lived in other whiter parts of England, perhaps. But coming back here, my family, I grew up downriver, but when I came back, my family's all in Bloomfield, so I started working in Birmingham. I had this delusion that I was going to have something to do with Sotheby's in London, which didn't transpire. But then I was like, okay, I'm living this Birmingham lifestyle, but I'm not able to earn this Birmingham income. So I need to reevaluate, move to a better company, Artera Realty, and doubled and then tripled my income within 3-4 years, which is great. And then I realized I actually really prefer being in Detroit. I missed the urban aspect of living in London. I realized I'm an urbanite. And, in Bloomfield, I tell people, if you're hungry, Sunday night at 8 p.m., go to bed, eat cereal, do whatever. There's nothing to do. And I really enjoy all aspects of the city. Perhaps I've been fortunate to have missed the horribleness. When I left here, it was great. And when I've come back, it's even better. I'm blown away by the constant, consistent, continuous developments in the city.
I too am a big fan of Sotheby's. I follow them on Instagram and look at everything I can afford.
I am not a fan of Sotheby's ownership. I like the idea of them bringing real estate to the world, and it's unfortunate people only consider them to be synonymous with luxury because there's more to it than that. And they have 800 offices. They're well established because of the art house and other connections, but it's the nitty gritty of being a realtor with them leaves a lot to be desired. In Michigan, anyway. Perhaps other franchises in other states are better than we have here. Not to disparage another company, but it's just, when you start at the bottom, there's only one way up.
That's interesting. You mentioned Birmingham, which is like, I talked to someone from there before, and he said it's like a mini Chicago or mini Beverly Hills.
Micro.
Even better. Talk to me about similarities, differences between Birmingham, Detroit, London, just out loud, other than racism, lifestyle, culture.
For sure. So it's funny because I referenced my children. So my daughter is a true Londoner, and she moved here as well, lived in Sacramento downtown. And when they moved back to Michigan, she said, I am only going to live in Birmingham. It's the closest thing you can get to London in Michigan. And it's funny because I'm a fan of the city of Detroit because of everything that we have the opportunity of here. As far as similarities between the three, there are not many. The biggest similarity is the fact that it's a semi-urban area where you can walk to. I feel safe wherever I go because that's what I'm projecting out. And maybe that's a bit pretentious to say, but I could be on the east side of Detroit, or I could be in Birmingham, or I could be in London, and I always feel safe. And I think once you've grown up in a cosmopolitan atmosphere, that's kind of developed inside you. The difference is London is a much more difficult place to live. It's very fast paced. It's very, just the practicalities, the ins and outs of it are more arduous than living in America in general. Detroit and Birmingham, they're easier for me to live in. I prefer, as again, I keep saying Detroit. London is just a little bit more taxing. It's more expensive. However, the public transport is second to none. It's amazing. And I wish and I look forward to the time when our city has such accessibility. It's refreshing to see all the little scooters and bikes that everybody's getting around, and all the amazing things. Detroit being voted one of the top 20 places to visit or live in Time magazine, and Detroit Riverfront being voted one of the nicest in the world. And people, and I say that with some wonder, and I shouldn't because I love it, and it's fortunate that the rest of the world's able to see it as well.
I'm gonna switch to what you mentioned you started a brokerage at the advice of a friend or family member. Talk to me about opening your own brokerage and working with realtors.
Okay. So I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by people who want to uplift me since I've come back here. My family are my biggest supporters, and the brokerage I was at, the CEO, he said, well, now that you're a broker, what are you going to do? Do you want to open a brokerage? And I was like, sure. And as much as anybody would say to me, I'm a Birmingham Bloomfield broker or realtor because that's where I live, that's my community, I prefer to be in Detroit. I think that my abilities and talents, as it were, are better of use in the city to uplift and to elevate the current up and coming, the current ones, the up and coming ones, the future ones, the past realtors in becoming better. My motto is simply sophisticated service for every client every time. Unfortunately, that has been sorely lacking in the city, or it's been limited to certain clientele only, and I don't like that. And people are not trained. People are not given the opportunity to be trained or to learn from people who may not come across in their daily life. And so I want to provide that for my agents.
What makes a good realtor? And what traits do you look for when bringing realtors into your brokerage?
A really good aspect of being a realtor is communication and responsiveness, in my opinion. I think it's all encompassing, and yes, we see all the bright young superstars that are 18, 20 years old, but they've not just fallen out of the sky. They've had a good upbringing in their family. And then for somebody who's older and more experienced in life, I think it's very important to bring all aspects of everything that I've experienced into it. Having been fortunate enough to travel around and to experience different things, run several businesses successfully, been a lawyer in England, and I think all that's helped me to become a better realtor and help other people who want to join to be aware of what they need to do. So, firstly, like I said, communication, responsiveness. I hear that time and time and time again, that Nusrat, we love working with you because you're available. And I am in the good position where I'm able to be so. It's not a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job. You have to understand that going into it. It's not really a part-time job if you're not going to devote your life to it. Like, I live, eat, breathe, and socialize real estate. Wherever I am, whenever I'm out, wherever I am, it's all about real estate for me. And when I look to other people who are more successful than me in the industry, and they're always accessible. They always are responsive to me. They're always willing to help me and to help me do better. And there's enough for everybody is my perception of it, and I want everyone to do well. I think when I'm speaking with realtors, I need to see that they're focused. I always ask, why are you trying to become a realtor? It's not to sell houses. It's to develop relationships and to help people.
When I first started video, so I'm originally from Philly. I moved here 10-ish years ago. And when I first got into video production here, I went to Birmingham looking to work with realtors because my thought was, Birmingham, there's money there. The realtors must have a lot of money and they would be great clients. That wasn't the experience I had a bunch of years ago. But talk to me about marketing. It seems like marketing and advertising is a thing, especially
Yeah.
in Birmingham with like the glossy magazines,
Yeah.
Detroit Homes, the
Yeah.
paper, everybody's the number one realtor.
Right.
Can you talk to me about marketing and advertising as a real estate professional? How important is it? What does that look like? Why do you do it? Does it work?
So, in aspiring to be like the better, more established real estate agents in the state or in the country, I know that the piece of advice I received from all of them is to focus on helping people and developing relationships. Everything else follows. I think nothing can supplant a personal relationship with a person. No, I understand the whole concept of marketing and you have to have 12 touches before people remember who you are. But to me, it all goes back to being consistent. I'm trying to achieve in 5 years what these people have taken 15, 20, 25 years to get to. And I'm able to do it a lot more effectively using social media. But I do know that the people who I aspire to be like didn't have social media when they started. And it's time and effort and hard work. At the end of the day, and I read all these motivational things, talent is nothing without hard work. And talent in real estate means communicating, being there, and pulling it all together. Unfortunately, going from a lawyer to being a realtor, I didn't know I was going down the total pole of validity, you know, my family are all in healthcare, and the way they view, it's like we're all together, the realtors, the used car salesmen, and the realtors and lawyers, right? So I realized that actually real estate and realtors in the profession, in the industry, we're underrated. We're the people who hold transactions together. And I wish people would do it more often in a better way. It makes a difference going to speak further about the relationships with other realtors and other brokers. And when I say to people, hey, let's go here because it's a networking event, and people are like, well, they're not buying houses from me. Why do I need to go there? I'm like, this is where you're wrong. You need to be there because you need to know who you're dealing with. You need to know. Now in these short 5-7 years that I've been fully immersed in the last 3-4 years more in Detroit, I want to know my fellow realtors and brokers so I understand who I'm dealing with, who's on the other side. When I'm going to go show a house, I love to see a listing of somebody that I know. I was like, oh gosh, I've met this man. He's so cool. This lady is on it. I know I'm going to get great service. It's going to be professional throughout. We're going to keep this deal moving. We're all working towards the best interests of our clients. We're all trying to help them do the best thing possible. That's why it's important to know your fellow realtor and your fellow professional and to maintain some sort of professionalism. It's an overused word, being professional, but it's very important to maintain it, I think. I wish more people would go look it up and look at the definition and behave in such a manner.
That makes sense. I'm going to get messy for a minute. Can you talk to me? Are realtors and different brokers friends with each other? Do they know each other? Like
Yes.
being a video professional, know a bunch of different people
Yeah.
in the real estate industry. Talk to me about the dynamics between realtors and brokerages.
Sure. So one thing I didn't realize when I first became a realtor is how much brokerage hopping goes along and goes around. And even where somebody's in a situation where they may not wish to remain, they have this, I honestly feel like a misplaced sense of loyalty to the brokerage they're in. Can we do this again? Yeah. So relationships between realtors at differing brokerages is vital to the success of this industry, I believe. We hear about all these things of NAR, the National Association of Realtors, or GMAR, the Greater Metropolitan Association of Realtors. They have these networking events and people don't get why they must attend. But as I've said, it's very important to understand what's good for you and what's good for your brokerage. And honestly, it's more brokerage hopping than I ever knew existed, where people, but you know, a person's dynamics or the realities of their life may shift and they seek something other than when they first began becoming a realtor. So they should always keep their options open. And the way to keep your options open is to maintain communication with other realtors. And I think it's important to know that, to work together, to know who's on the other side of things. And it's really beneficial. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I see listings, as soon as I see somebody's name on a listing, I immediately know what's going to happen next. And I know I can reach out to them and say, hey, and anyone should do this anyway. As soon as you want to put an offer in on a property, and we're speaking mostly single family residential here, or for even investors, but I know that when we want to submit an offer, it's so much better for me when I know the realtor that's listing it, or if I'm the listing agent and I get a call from someone who's buying it. I think it's really important. Recently, one of my clients went to an open house. We'd been looking for about 4 or 5 months. She went to an open house, and by this stage, we've seen 70 or 80 homes. She went by herself, and she said the listing agent said, hey, you know, they like the house. And the listing agent said, do you have a realtor? And when she mentioned my name, the listing agent said, oh my gosh, I've worked with her before, and I can't wait to work with her. I mean, we used to work together at the same brokerage. And if that's your realtor, let's make this happen. And my clients said to me, so like, we knew if we wanted this house, we'd get it because that lady liked you so much. And that's really gratifying to know, to maintain some sort of a good reputation. You know, admit to something when you're wrong and say, hey, I didn't know this. How can we move forward from it? What can we do to make this happen? And that can only happen if you have good relationships with your fellow realtors.
That makes sense. This is something that is popular as a headline and consumers love to hear. Talk to me about, so I moved to Detroit 10-ish years ago. When I first moved here, I moved close to Wayne State. Recently, I got married and had 2 kids, so I moved to the west side in University District. And talking to other people, that seems to be a thing. Like when you're young and you're looking for a good time, you go downtown. After you mature a little bit and have a family, you go to pick a neighborhood. Talk to me about different neighborhoods and sections and communities that you see as being, I guess, popular or trendy, yep, for lack of better words,
sure.
Even
Absolutely.
if it's Metro Detroit and Detroit.
For sure. So just to finish with the other thing I was saying, I wanted to say one more thing about that. With relation to realtors and brokerages, something that will always happen in real estate, the reason we have E&O insurance, errors and omissions insurance, is because every single transaction is different. When I was at my previous brokerage, no less than 5 or 6 times, issues occurred. There were concerns, there were some difficulties, and every single time I felt like my brokerage let me down at that time. Since moving to my new broker, again, 5 or 6 different things happened. Every single time, the owner of the company, the broker, the support staff, wherever our admin is, our team leaders, they always had my back. And that's the people I'd like to emulate and be more like. So I think it's really important to know that your broker and your brokerage and your colleagues are all there to support you in your endeavors, and that you know that you can rely on them. I think that's really vital because I've seen it happen time and time again. I was helping a fellow realtor with something. She said, you're helping me more than my own brokerages. I feel like you should be earning the commission on this because you've done everything and no one here is helping me. That happens a lot, unfortunately. So I think it's really important to be supportive as a broker. Moving on to different neighborhoods of the city, it's interesting that we should mention this because I didn't know a lot about it. I worked with a lot of investors, for example, who, and it's so funny because Detroit is a big city, but you've got your West Siders and your East Siders and your downtowners and your middle people, and you can't do anything to get somebody from the East Side to move to the West. And nobody from the west side would even contemplate moving east. And it all depends. Are you east of Gratiot? Are you east of Woodward? Are you west of what? And so being not from the city at all and coming into it fresh, I was like, what's the problem? Why can't everyone get along? There's no problem. It's just they're passionate about where they are and how they are. I have had the pleasure of being in and around these areas, and it's amazing. It's stunning. I've had overseas clients from all around the world who I've driven around, and they're just like, whoa, what is this? This kind of architecture we have all throughout our city doesn't exist anywhere else. To mention the more popular neighborhoods, and if we start with, say, Palmer Woods and the Detroit Golf Club community, and then Sherwood Forest, Green Acres, Sherwood Forest, then University District, then Bagley, then Martin Park, and then you're getting into Boston Edison, and then LaSalle. And what I actually have a listing on LaSalle right now where the demographic of people who were coming through my open houses were the young urban professionals that moved or from even like Oakland County, and they wanted to live downtown. They had a great time. They are now married. They're having children. They want a house. An apartment isn't going to suit them anymore, but they don't want to leave Detroit. So that area of LaSalle is really coming in to that kind of a thing where the gathering, the meeting houses, it's called, what's it called? What's that place called? On LaSalle, over there on Rosa Parks Boulevard. The meeting house. Is it the meeting house, the gathering? The congregation. The congregation. Coffee spot. So it's not just a coffee. So in and around that whole area, it took one person to see the vision, turn that church into something, call it the congregation with a nod to its history. And yet it's just amazing. It's just so like full of vitality. Everyone walks to there from miles away, and you see people all day long. Every open house I did, see little young moms with strollers and people on bikes and going for walks. And I've seen every nationality, every demographic, everything from really wealthy to not so wealthy. Everybody's in and around that area building it up. I think it's really what the new Detroit is about. And you know, I don't even like that word, the new Detroit, the current Detroit, I would say, and where we're headed, the future. I don't know what it was before, but this is what it is now, and it's an amazing thing to see, and I really love being a part of it. I don't know if I'm allowed to use the word gentrification, but you know, I don't see it as gentrification, and maybe my privileged self is able to say that because I didn't live here and I don't have history, but I do know that I haven't seen anybody ask someone to leave to build it up. The people who are coming into the city are revitalizing abandoned homes, building things where there wasn't anything before, inhabiting places, and building up the city. I have a current client who came here many, many years ago. They were able to capitalize upon what was offered even before land bank, and they dealt with foreclosures. They did buy them for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. They did build them up. They did rent them out. They did make a ton of money. They have their exit strategy. They're done. They've I think done a good thing for our city in making abandoned homes livable. And now if they want to leave and sell it on to the next person, then that's great as far as I'm concerned. They've put something into the city that wasn't there before.
The gentrification in Detroit topic is complex, and I'm definitely not qualified to talk about it. But I haven't been here for only a decade. I've seen so much change in just a decade. I can imagine how people who grew up here and have been here for generations feel with seeing a change like so rapidly, specifically in certain neighborhoods.
So if you think about Chroma, for example, so with regards to all the new things that are happening, there's a way of doing it. I've seen the wrong way and I've seen the right way, I think. And there's more leaning towards the right way. It's so gratifying to see a building like Chroma next door that's got, it's a hub. It's becoming a place for everyone. And it's so interesting to see an event that I was a part of, for example, and then how it's portrayed in the media or on other people's social media posts. And there's somebody who's a traditional older black woman posting about it, saying that it's like it was a white event. And I was like, really, when? Because I was there, and it was amazing to see the colors, and everybody came out. We had like the top restaurants of Detroit, like She Wolf and Oak and Reel, and all these people had stands at this place, and everyone was able to partake of it. But it continues, and they're doing it in the right way in the North End, inviting everybody from the community. They're having so many free events so that people can come and feel a part of everything that's happened. It's not exclusive. It's not. It really does pain me to see a very homogenous white clientele in the top end restaurants. I'm just like, where am I right now? I find it painful where the only people of color are the ones serving or behind the bar or being the door people. I don't like that. And I think there's something to be said for the pricing out of people. But honestly, you know, eating out anywhere isn't inexpensive anymore, and you can pick and choose. And I think when they do have offerings and when they have like these weeks, like restaurant week or like happy hours, it's a way of people. It's underrated, honestly, for people to. They should come and partake of that more. Like you can go anywhere, and if you're gonna eat and drink, you're gonna spend money. But focus here.
Couldn't agree with you more. What are you seeing in the overall climate of real estate? The market, trends?
Okay. So, thanks to, again, social media and these kind of, say, podcasts or YouTube channels or just Instagram and Twitter and this whole, the buzzword that's been around for a while now, BRRRR, buy, rehab, reinvest, like live in it, whatever. I can't even remember all the acronyms standing for, but people are really, really into this whole house hacking. We all want a duplex. We're going to live in one and we're going to rent out the other. There's a lot to be said for it. And we're seeing a lot of people that can see the value of living here, and they work in and around the area. So they might work in Royal Oak and they're driving from Ann Arbor. So they want to settle in Detroit, and good for them. I think that's great. There's a lot of that happening where people are realizing the value, and where some of the older residents who've been here are like, we're not buying anything in Highland Park for $300,000. But guess what? That's where it's going. And if you buy it now at 200, then in time to come, it will be worth the 300, and you'll wish you had done that. And good for everybody who's getting there. You know, I'm helping to promote it, and I get looked at like sideways. I met somebody recently at the DAC who said the same thing. She's like, they're spending what? I was like, listen, it's value. Like, you know, if you can spend $300,000 for a house that there isn't enough room to swing a cat in Ferndale, why are you not in Detroit spending $300,000 on a really historic, beautiful home that's brick, that's central to everything, and you know is only going to increase and appreciate in value?
Second to last question.
I think he has something to say to me.
Dre, did you have something to say?
Oh, I thought you wanted to say something to
I
him.
was typing the question. I didn't want to interrupt y'all flow.
Just say
Oh,
Oh, well, I was going to ask.
Microphone.
My question was because you kind of talked about it with like the marketing aspect in terms. Cause I think that a lot of times people look at it from a resources. Like when you were saying, sometimes people go out and like buy inwards, meaning that they might not be residents here, but they're investing or they're kind of like a part of the quote unquote redevelopment, but it might not be in the best way. Gentrification, for example, or redlining. So my thing as being somebody who has seen it, what resources or I guess you could say organizations could people kind of like look for as like better help? For example, there's like a lot of Section 8 people. There's a lot of people who were affected by, you know, the pandemic. And then you have other property management companies kind of like coming in, flushing them out, then reusing that same space for somebody else, more paying, but it's kind of like, those are families, those are lives. So it's kind of like, how do Detroit residents kind of keep home, I guess, you know what I'm saying? But with the help of people like yourself who are coming at it from, you know, a community aspect. I don't know if it was a long-winded question.
No, I mean, you said a lot of words in there that are like trigger words, like, you know, like the word redlining and gentrification and like having people be flushed out. They're all like very incendiary words, terms to use, and they're not all applicable to every situation for sure. it's a sensitive way of doing business. I've been in that situation where we've been in homes, and it's a delicate way for me as an outsider to be in. I came in once having dealt with a Section 8 tenant who was threatening to shoot me of all people. Like, what have I done to you? I'm only trying to help you. But he's like, if you don't get out, I got my gun here. I was like, oh, for crying out loud. I had to call the police. And it was just a day, I came back into my office, and I used to be at Cocoon. And I walked in, and I'm the only non-black person there. I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm done with all these leases. I'm done with Section 8 tenants in Detroit. And I got a lot of flack. And there was like my age or maybe an older black woman. She's like, whoa, excuse me, what's your problem in Detroit? What are you trying to say about Detroiters? I'm like, I'm not trying to say anything about Detroit. I'm just telling you what just happened to me. And it's challenging and it's difficult. And that phrase of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And, and it's deeper of like all the people that were part of the riots and saw their families lose things, and then they've come back, and now is it happening all over to us again? But it comes with education. I think it has to be where people need to be educated and have lines of communication open all the time, so they understand that they shouldn't feel threatened by the people that are coming in. Yes, there are those people of, can we name names like the Chinese and the South Americans and the Russians who are coming in and buying in volume, and they're doing perhaps nothing with it. And they're like, here, we're sitting on it, we're gonna wait till it gets better, and then we're gonna make our money and leave. But for the ones that are individual investors that are here like, hey, let's fix this house up and make it attractive and make it a place where we'd like to live as well, not just like do the bare minimum. Like, we're really, thank goodness, have the certificate of compliance that's coming in. So we're eliminating slum landlords so that everybody is able to live in a place that anyone would wish to live in. But we have to balance that with all the people trying to work the system. And like, hey, you didn't put a light bulb in, so now I'm not going to let you get your money. Or you're a doctor that owns my house, you make a ton of money. It doesn't matter whether you get my rent or not. Like, that is not cool, sir. Like, he paid a ton of money to get to be a doctor as well. He's probably in all sorts of debt. And it's a good thing that he's come here and bought this home. He could have done whatever else with his money. He could have bought a house in Royal Oak or in Ferndale or in Berkeley. He's chosen to come to Detroit and make this house better, and you're living in a nice place now, and let's work together, perhaps. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Squatters are a challenge, and squatters' rights are challenging. And there's a lot of scamming going around. I just sold a house, went to do the inspection, we're about to close. Lo and behold, somebody's living in there. I'm like, hi, what are you doing here? And she's like, oh, I paid somebody $2,000. I was like, really? She's like, here's my receipt. I said, who's the somebody? Oh, I don't know his name. Can I have his phone number? No, I don't know it right now. I'm like, okay, well, listen, I'm trying to sell the house, and they're about to come to do their final walkthrough. And she's like, did you want me to go for a walk and just not be here? I'm like, well, that would be delightful. Thanks so much for going for a walk. I'm not going to do that again. Going back to the fellow realtors conversations, I called him. I'm like, hey, I have to tell you, there's a woman living there. She claims they've paid somebody to have lived there. You know what? Let's make this work. I said, your lady who's buying it wants to fix it up to put a tenant in. This lady's already living here. You have a ready-made tenant. She works. She has 4 kids living there with her. She claims to have paid something. Ask her for a pay stub. Let's make it work. Now you don't need to spend money fixing the house up. She's already there. Let her live there for a month. No one's stealing the furnace to the hot water tank. And, let's just work together. And I think we're going to do it now. And this was a French investor. She's never laid eyes on the house. Look at the circle of people. There's like 15 different people involved in the sale of this one $60,000 house in Detroit. And we're all trying to make it work for everybody. The French investor who's selling it, the new Canadian investor buying it, the tenant that left and went to Vegas, she was on Section 8, the new lady that moved in with her 4 kids. It's a whole lot. And we're all trying to just hold it together and make it work for everyone. It's not always easy. It's a challenge. And it's funny when people are like, oh, you're in Detroit for the big bucks. I was like, no, I'm not in Detroit for any big bucks. I'm here because for me, it's also a way of affecting some social justice because of my background in law. And I am very unimpressed with the lack of justice system in these United States. I can't stand it. and I didn't want to account for every 6 minutes of my life as a lawyer, so I turned to real estate. But in real estate, I found this is a way of me participating in giving something back to somebody. Yeah, through housing. Thank you. Good question.
Earlier, you had mentioned you have a bunch of interviews today.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the future of your brokerage and what you're looking forward to.
So my brokerage story is very cool about how I was encouraged to open a brokerage. I didn't really have any aims for it. I didn't even know when I came here that to be a realtor, and I was just explaining this to one of my friends last night. He goes, why would you not have your own brokerage? Why isn't everybody their own broker? Because a lot is required. So being a lawyer, I obviously had a background in being able to become a broker, but you need to have 18 transactions in 3 years, not so many, and you have to take a more arduous course and a more arduous exam that unfortunately many current brokers in the world, in Michigan, have failed several times before they became one. It's a little more challenging, and I honestly think they should make getting a real estate licensing way more difficult than what it currently is. It's multiple choice. I'm like, are you kidding me? And people still fail, and then they still get realtors. I find that mind-blowing. But when I am interviewing these people, I really want to know why they are realtors. What made them get their license? Because I've seen many people who go through this process. They spend around $2,000. It's really the cheapest way to open your own business. Everyone is 1099, but you can't just go out there and start selling real estate. You have to align yourself with a brokerage who then, because of what they've paid for, are entitled to take a cut of your commission. That can be whatever you want. I have done my utmost to make sure I provide value to the people coming on board. Unfortunately, people, I referred earlier to knowing what the bottom is and you can only go up. But when you're given the best of everything from the outset, some people aren't appreciative or aware that they're being given everything, and it's that being given. Real estate doesn't work like that. Real estate has to be self-propelled. I look for people who are self-starters, who are ambitious, and who are ready to honestly hustle. You know, and I love seeing that phrase, but literally you have to hustle harder in this business. Where a lot of people are like, why are you always so busy? What are you always doing? Where are you always going? And it's like, I am meeting people that are part of the future of Detroit. I see my brokerage being that type of brokerage that people look to say, hey, you know, when we do business with them, when they're wearing a name tag with Moghul and Maine on it, I need to know that they're representing me in behavior, in ethics, in dress, in their demeanor. I want it all to be professional, on point. Back to my tagline of simply sophisticated service. I chose those words carefully because it's very simple, but it has to be sophisticated, and it's about service to others in every way. And I need people to understand that that's where we're going with all of this.
Well said.
Thank you.
Final thoughts? Anything you want to say to the audience? Here's your time.
I touched on this earlier about how important the role of real estate is. I get we have NFTs, all these non-fungible tokens. We have Bitcoin. We have all these things in the ether. We have things that people can't grasp or fathom. And I guess it's not just old school, because a lot of young people are also of the opinion that it's always real estate. I realize that people with degrees, my family, other people I know, people who studied hard, worked hard, and achieved a state of being of means have all ended up in real estate. It's some people's start game, some people's end game. And I think as far as real estate in Detroit is, we are fortunate to be at the stage of building up. And as far as my brokerage, I'm also at that stage. And I think it's really important to maintain professionalism in what we do and to really appreciate the city, be mindful, as other gentlemen just asked me to speak of, the people who were here before, the people who are coming in, and the people who are here now.
One more question. You had mentioned cryptocurrencies a moment ago. I'm a huge enthusiast. Um, are you familiar with fractional investing into real estate and the concept of so the blockchain
Yeah.
is open source database, simply put.
Yes.
And there's a company in Detroit, I forget their name, but they're an international company working in real estate and blockchain. And on behalf of the company, they'll buy a multi-unit property. And they will sell shares of the property through the business, and it's all tracked on a blockchain. And fractional investing is like, the next big thing in
Yep.
blockchain and real estate. Are you familiar with that, or could you talk to that at
So
all?
the CEO of my parent company, Artera and Artiva, has really introduced the idea of blockchain and fractional investing to us to be something that we're all looking towards in the future. So at the moment, there's so much to do in life. I don't even sleep. If I've slept more than 4 hours, it's like, wow, I feel hungover because I never even get that much sleep, because there's so much to achieve and so much to learn and so much to do. I'm familiar with the actual concept of tangible fractional investments. So in London, because real estate is so ridiculously high, one condo is worth 800,000. You will purchase a quarter of that, so you are investing X amount, and when you sell it, you will make money on that X amount. Somebody else has those other shares for you, or other people are also investing that much. So that's the tangible version of it that I know of that's been carried out. And the new age of doing things, I think it's exciting. I think it helps more people to be a part of all investments that they couldn't participate in before. Again, it's back to education, information. And even to do like a first-time homebuyer class might change from somebody who's getting a loan for $50,000, $75,000 to buy a small home to purchasing first-time homebuyer as in fractional real estate. That'd be really cool. That's a cool concept for someone. What I just said now, so for these people who are doing this kind of investing to be able to offer seminars and offer things like a luncheon, and they're like, hey guys, come invest in this because you can be part of it. And that's not just for somebody who wants to live in it. Say they already live somewhere, they don't have, say, 300-400 grand sitting around to invest in something, and they don't believe in the value of stocks going up and down. But this is a tangible asset they can participate in, and it's like an online version of REIT, right? Real Estate Investment Trust. So instead of doing it where you're giving your money to somebody to put it in real life, you're putting it there. But I think blockchains are an amazing way forward.
And you don't have to be an accredited investor
Nice.
if you do it this way.
Nice.
Thank you for your time. Incredible conversation. I don't want to butcher your first name, Miss Moghul. Thank you.
I appreciate it. That's why it's called Moghul in Maine.